Hi everyone, I'm Sheriar, one of the owners of Legacy Waste Control. And today I have one of my great friends, Ramon Parchment. Ramon, thank you so much for being here. And shout out to my brother Nakash Bhai as well for letting me use the studio. So thank you for that. And Ramon, thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Shaya. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be on our podcast, but yours especially is one that I'm really interested in being on and sharing any insights that I can. So
Awesome. Thank you so
appreciate it,
much.
brother.
No, thank you. So the reason I got Ramon here, because me and Ramon just started talking a lot together recently, and the reason why is because I'm in my waste business game. He is in a really high end level of when it comes to construction, a bunch of projects here in New York City, and even a lot of other states, which I'm gonna let him talk about, and then we're gonna kind of dive into his journey and kind of where he got to where he is today. So Ramon, can you share with us what you currently do and kind of what are some of the projects that you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently I'm a senior project manager at Aecom Tishman.
Awesome.
For people who are not aware of Aecom Tishman, we built the World Trade Center, the first two
Wow.
and the newest.
Wow.
We
Awesome.
also built one Vanderbilt, which is right beside Grand Central. If you've ever been to the
Yep.
observation deck, and also been to the Edge, which is
Beautiful.
30 Hudson. That's the type of scale projects that we work on.
Awesome.
Ultimately, what I'm working on right now is data center construction. So
I heard
right
about
now I'm
that.
in a mix of building projects outside of New York, which is also in Minnesota, some in Texas, some in Idaho, some also in Omaha, some in also in Florida. So it's quite a mixture of different projects that I'm
Awesome.
working
Awesome.
through.
Awesome.
But it's been an exciting journey being in construction.
So how long do those projects typically last? Are these like 1 year projects, 2 year projects? Is it longer than that? Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. So it depends on the type of project. So you're
Okay.
talking maybe like a World Trade Center, and you have
Yeah.
a lot more parties involved, and the
Yes.
scale of the project, those can last easily 7 years, right?
Yeah.
When you have something like a data center, or especially like a 20,000 square foot data center, which is small these days,
Wow.
actually. You're talking $100,000 square foot data centers are being built right
Wow.
now. 200,000 square foot data centers. A 20,000 you can do in 2 years.
And what companies are usually hiring, ACOM to do those?
Yeah, so the parties generally for data center construction, it could be Verizon, it could be
Wow.
Facebook, it could be QTS, it could
Wow.
be different, even interior banks.
Yeah.
Certain banks have their own proprietary data center that they have inside the building. I won't tell you which.
I got you. I was trying to get it out of you.
But yeah, it depends on the client. It
Okay.
depends on what they want to do with the data center. Some companies they want to build something brand new out the ground.
Okay.
Right? Others they have an existing data center. They want to upgrade the data center. They want to bring in new server racks.
Wow.
Requires new power, more power to the racks. Consequently, you need to bring new equipment in there to process that power. And if you have new racks, it's more heating. There's new updated versions of heating and cooling systems.
Wow.
So they want to upgrade their cooling systems. They want to upgrade their communications to the servers to make sure they can monitor.
So
properly.
for any of those reasons, you guys would go and kind of help out with that, correct?
Right. So what
Okay.
would happen is we do a feasibility study.
Okay.
Right? Like basically, this is what you can build here. This is what we expect that you could do. This is the time frame. Right now, in construction, if you haven't adjusted yourself to what I consider post-COVID and pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So pre-COVID, things were a lot different, right?
Okay.
You could really hold manufacturers to a time frame, a range in which
Right.
you could.
Because they had those expectations, I'm assuming it was all consistent. And then COVID came and then bang, right?
And then since then, like it's so much harder to really make a schedule and like hold yourself to that schedule. So you really find yourself being a lot more hands-on with your subcontractors,
Okay.
trying to make sure that materials don't slip.
Okay.
Because back in the day, you could just leave the contractor to manage getting their material. No, you have to be there with them, with the supplier. Like, are you sure you're going to meet this date? I need you to meet this date. Or if you're doing generators, before you could get generators within a year. No,
Wow.
it's 2 years out.
Wow.
Guaranteed. You want to start.
And we're talking about some really big generators, correct?
Yeah, so they're talking about 2.5 megawatts.
Oh my God, wow.
Right? So, like,
Okay.
the home is maybe 120 amps. Like,
Wow.
it's nothing
Compared to
like
what that
2.5
is.
megawatts worth of
Wow.
power that you're bringing into a building. So
I could imagine the electrical team going crazy with all those data and wiring and everything.
So
Like,
in data center construction, your limiting factor is power, right? And that's what really drives where the feasibility of where you want to build a new data center,
okay,
right? So right now, the big data center market right now is Texas, also in North Virginia,
okay.
and the reasons for that is well,
Land, the bigger
the
space and land,
space you
right?
can spread, but then
Okay.
also the cost of power could be much more significantly lower in those areas. You
Then
can
doing it in a city area or something like that, right? Okay.
yeah. So once you start getting into that mechanics of how we're going to build it, where we're going to build it, what size we're going to build it, who we're going to. Some data centers are specific to a specific client, right?
Okay.
Facebook, I'm building my data center for myself.
Awesome.
Others are they call co-location, where they're basically having multiple agencies inside that one data center.
Wow.
And they're leasing space for something else. So
So for a data center like of that size, how many subcontractors and how many, I guess, different companies are involved in a
yeah,
project that long?
yeah, no. So you have so I think each project is a little different.
Okay.
So I did commercial interiors, right?
Awesome.
So back in commercial interiors, the architectural trades really took the lead, right?
Got
Like
it.
your stone finish has to be perfect,
Right.
right? Your architectural wood finishes are the lead, right? Because that's what people are coming into a bank lobby. The
Right.
bank wants to make a statement. They want you to know you're here, right?
Yeah.
And then lighting and MEPs kind of took a back seat, right?
Okay.
In data center construction, it's completely flipped, right?
Okay.
Your lead is your electrician. The electrical team is the lead, right? They're the ones that you're moving to the beat.
So you trust them to get it done, basically.
Yeah, so it's trust will always verify, right?
Right.
It's
You look
it's
at
fair
their
for-
I'm assuming like you're looking at their what projects have they done before? What things
Right.
have they worked on similar to what you're currently trying to do?
100%. So
Okay.
before you get married to somebody,
Yeah.
you do your background
Right.
check, right?
Yeah.
And similarly in construction, the word contractor
Right.
first the root word is contract, right?
Okay.
We're in contract with each other. So before I get in contract with somebody, I want to know who I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And what you bring to the table and what other projects you've done before this that allows me to believe that you can play at this level and this scale, right?
Right.
With the same level of insurance requirements, the same level of bonding capacity, and the ability to manage to the very end of the project. And so we end up at a minimum visiting or reaching out to 3 subcontractors, if sometimes 4 or 5, and then we invite them to bid the job.
Wow. Nice.
And
Okay.
once we invite you to bid the job, we procure the job by writing out the scope of work that we would like you to actually do, and you would based on what we wrote and what we are asking you in the time frame, give us pricing. Then
Okay.
we have what we call a leveling meeting, right? So that meeting, now I'm going to sit with you. Because again, our trade partners, we want them to be successful,
Right.
right? Because we're not successful without you being
Yeah.
successful, right? And so in the leveling meeting is really going through all your numbers and making sure you've captured the entire scope.
Okay.
Because the worst thing you want is to have to go back to your client for additional funding, especially if it's on the drawing and the person
Right.
should have captured it, right? And so we sit down with our trades like, hey, did you get this? Did you get this? Did you get this?
So you make sure that never happens. That everyone knows exactly what they have to do.
Right, because before, just think of American
Yeah.
football, right? You have a game plan before you go and play
Right.
the game.
Yeah.
You don't try and figure out the game
As it's
after the
going.
game. So pre-construction and construction
Okay.
are 2 different phases of the entire industry.
Right.
And the intent of pre-construction is to set up before we get into the construction.
So how long can the pre-construction phase take?
Oh, it can take a while. Depending
Wow.
on the project.
So nothing has even happened yet, but there's a lot of, I guess, paperwork
Oh, yeah,
that has to
there's
get passed
100%.
at that scale.
That scale, especially if you're dealing with a large project, you could have
Okay.
pre-construction for almost a year. I mean,
And as far as Aecom, with Tishman and everything, how large are those projects in money terms? Like,
oh, okay, all right. So just
if you had to
talking
kind
about
of,
world
yeah,
trade, you're talking $2 billion.
I could. Oh my God! Wow.
When you're talking Citibank, which I was working
Yeah.
at the time, it's $2.5 billion worth. Of
So you're managing a $2.5 billion
It's
project,
mixed,
like,
though, because
okay,
for us it was both Tishman and Turner,
okay,
and then under Tishman and Turner you have
got it.
different project executives.
So both companies partnered with each other.
partners. Well, we partnered with.
You guys partnered with them, yeah.
With the clients, which is Citibank.
Okay,
And
okay,
at that point, we did a lot of the what you would say the infrastructure work, and they
Okay.
did the tenant fit out work.
Yeah. Is there ever any conflict between the two when it goes, or is it like everyone just understands what they have to do? Everyone just wants the money and then they're out, or no? It's like,
Yeah, there's
you know,
any project. There's always conflict,
okay.
right? There's always going to be friction.
Or they say, hey, we were supposed to be doing that. Why are you guys doing that? Or
Well,
like something like that, you
that's
know?
funny. That's funny. Normally, the scope of work is already delineated from a program level. So yeah,
Okay.
right. So
Okay.
let's just go back to like you have programs and you have projects, right?
Okay.
A program has multiple projects in there,
Okay.
right? So at the program level, Citibank would go, okay, I want Aecom Tishman to do all the exterior work.
Okay.
And I want him to do the plaza. I want him to do this tenant space. Or that's the areas I want Aecom to work, right?
Okay.
I want him to do the roof terrace, etc. And then for turn, I would want him to do the office fit out, right?
Okay.
And so from the program level, it's kind of figured
That's what
out.
the job was for that they got hired to do.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that stops that from happening, right?
Okay.
And then once the program is figured out, no, we're gonna have projects. They're gonna be small projects inside that program. Well,
Got it.
one of these areas we're gonna tackle first.
Right.
Do we want to do the lobby first? Do we want to do outside first?
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna do outside first. Now we're gonna get a project manager and his team to manage that project. So the Citibank program gets broken down into small projects.
And that's how you're able to do it successfully because everyone has a focus to do.
100%.
Okay.
The way life is, the law of entropy,
Yeah.
right? Everything tends to disorder.
Yeah.
And so the moment you can, our job as project manager is to provide order. And that's, if you think about an organization, it's
Right.
called an organization
Yeah.
because you provide order. And the high level persons in those organizations are called chief officers,
Right.
right? What does an officer do in the field or in any industry?
Right.
Provide order. So your job is to try your best to mitigate disorderly activities from happening before it happens.
Right.
So you're really proactive.
It's all risk. And how can we mitigate that risk
Correct,
and make
yeah.
it as low as possible for anything to mess up?
100%.
I got it. So, how many companies like Aecom are there? You know,
Yeah, this is,
because I'm thinking about you're telling me 2 billion,
yeah.
hundreds of million to billions of dollars. That doesn't sound like some regular mom and pop GC. You know, so like, how does that work? You know?
Yeah, there are quite a few actual companies that are running the same level in the US. When you talk
Okay.
international, it's very few companies that
Okay.
Aecom is a multinational company,
Yeah.
right? If I wanted to go and live in France, there's an Aecom office there.
Wow.
There's an Aecom office in England. There's an Aecom office in Australia.
In the UAE?
There's an Aecom office
Wow.
in the UAE. So like,
Wow.
so when it comes to the scale that Aecom is, very, very, very few companies are at that scale.
Wow.
Right? And ultimately, that gives us certain leverages because you have these talented folks from different, diverse backgrounds. That one thing I always say to myself, and we learned at Aecom, is if you don't know, someone in the company knows.
Yeah.
So there's no need for you to tell a client you don't know. You can say, I am not the technical expert
Right.
at this specific point,
But I could guide you.
but I can find
Where to
the
go.
technical expert.
I always do that all the time.
There's somebody in the company that you can reach out to that will have the information you're looking for.
Yeah, I remember like even when I used to like be a manager at Amazon,
Yeah.
there were so many things that people would ask and I wouldn't really know exactly the answer to it, but I would always know as a manager where to go, where to direct people
Right.
that know the answers to get it done. And I think that's a very important
Skill set to
to have. You need to know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is you're not going to know everything. You
Yeah.
just can't. But
Yeah.
the reality is also that there's someone, you know that there's someone, but you're not aware of them right now
Yeah.
who does. And instead of just saying no because that's the easiest answer to give, the harder answer is to give a more nuanced answer.
Right.
Like, I don't know. That's vulnerability.
Yeah.
You're telling the person, I genuinely may not know this information.
Right.
But you also are following up by saying, hey, well, regardless of me knowing, I know that someone in the company is likely to know this.
Yeah.
And so let me do some homework for you.
Okay.
And that's how you provide value to your client.
I like
right?
that. Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing when you're doing client relations or you're dealing with your client is add value to it. You know, someone's spending your money. It's sacrifice.
Yeah.
Money is a sacrifice. You didn't get it for free.
So go a little above and beyond.
So like
You
part
know?
of your job is to like make an effort
100%.
to make sure your clients are always happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a tough conversation with your client. Like, hey, I'm sorry. I mean, I know we
Yeah.
had this schedule, but here's the reason why. For instance, one of our jobs, we were sadly 8 months behind, but it's
Wow.
because we had a delay on our generators, the
Okay. That
manufacturing.
was just out of your hands. Yeah.
You can't do anything about it at
Yeah.
that point, right? You can plan out as best as you can, right? You can control as much as you can, but the reality is the company could not get the generators in time. What do you do in that moment? Well, you have to go back to your client. You
Yeah.
gotta tell them the truth. You gotta say, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we're
Just
trying
be
to
honest.
this is how we're trying
Yeah.
to mitigate the problem. It's not hands in the air like we're not gonna try. But in the meantime, here's what we're gonna do. Here's our plan of
Yeah.
making up scope of work or doing work while we're waiting on this specific problem to solve itself out. And we're working on the problem.
Right.
And so when a client sees that you're making a proactive effort to not just wait,
They'll go with you.
they will always work
They'll always
with
go
you.
with you.
Yeah, they'll
You know,
always work with you.
it's funny. I have Nura right here too. You guys can't see him, but there's so many times where there's situations that are out of our control.
Yeah.
But Nura and I would always make sure the customer is satisfied. We'll find a way to make it work. And because the thing is, if you're not the company that's gonna do it, then there's another company out there that will go above and beyond, take those extra steps to take that client away from you.
It's competitive.
It's competitive. It's very
It's a
competitive.
competitive environment, and that's why, like my own podcast,
Yeah.
Game Plan Execute,
Yes.
one of the things that I highlight is an athletic mindset.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what an athletic mindset is, you recognize that you are in competition, right? And your skill development is the highest priority
Right.
thing that you have, right? Well, athletes have different ways they develop skill. Well, they might lift weights, they might run drills, they might do different things. But if we consider ourselves in a competitive environment as Aecom Tishman,
Right.
and I consider myself an intellectual athlete, what
Yeah.
are the things that are skill development for a project manager?
Right.
One of them is client feedback and client negotiation and developing the ability to go above and beyond. Because just like in boxing, just like in football,
Yeah.
when someone else is resting, someone else is training. And Kobe says it the best. If I'm doing 2 drills or doing 2 practices a day for a year, it don't mean anything. But in
Right.
5 years, if you're only doing one a day or one every other day, you just can't catch up with the volume of work
Yeah.
that we've performed, right? And same thing in construction. If we're constantly pushing to give our client a better feeling about spending money with us, right?
Yeah.
And everyone knows, or most times, recurring client is where you get the top of your revenue, and you keep making return clients happy, then you're going to keep being successful.
Because you
in
have
the
that nice
industry.
system going on, and that relationship is already there from the beginning.
Right.
So
And you're going to become what they consider a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have a problem. Let me ask this person.
Right.
I know you. Even if he doesn't know, I know that person.
They can guide me.
Is going to try and find
Yeah.
a solution to the problem.
No, that's very good. So your role now is can you describe the whole title right now? Are you senior?
Yeah, it's senior project manager, mission critical senior project manager.
Awesome. So what made you wanna? Well, how long have you been working? With Aecom and
So
Tishman and
I've
everything.
been with Aecom for 8.5 years.
Wow.
9 years.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got in right after college.
And where did you go? Where did you get your degree? And
So
what was it?
I got it in civil engineering.
Okay,
minor in
nice.
Construction management.
Nice.
I went to NYU Polytechnic at the time.
Nice.
It was called NYU Tamden School of Engineering.
Nice.
And we got in right out of school. I was in school. I was an intern at Con Edison for
Oh, wow.
2.5 years.
Okay.
And then before that, I was living in Jamaica.
Wow.
Living and thinking about my dream.
So how long were you in Jamaica for?
I was there for majority of my life.
Wow.
I was there till 20.
Wow,
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
So what's the big difference from Jamaica to like here in New York and America and everything?
Yeah, so Jamaica is interesting. Like one thing with Jamaica is we pride ourselves on a culture of hard work.
Nice.
Right? So there's always that tendency. And I grew up in Kingston, which is a city.
Nice.
It's not New York City, but it's
Yeah.
still a city, right? It's still much more hustle and bustle than being out in the countryside in Jamaica. But one thing that I grew up knowing in Jamaica, we have this saying, and only most Jamaicans will understand it. We little but we tall.
Yeah.
It means like we're small but we're large,
Right.
right? And so that gives you a culture of like confidence in believing in yourself, believing what you can do,
Right.
regardless of what stakes are against you. You're gonna always try your very best to do your very best. And we always in school had this saying, even when I was in prep school, heights of great men wretched and kept wasn't attained by sudden flight, but while their companions slept, we kept toiling through the night.
Wow.
And they would say that every devotion. And so that kind of instilled a culture of hard work.
Nah, I
Like,
love it. I love it.
and so from there, I had it's funny because initially I wanted to do game design. So in
Okay.
ninth grade,
No way.
it's a
You don't seem like the game design kind of guy.
I know. So I used to love video games, right?
Okay.
And then
Oh, any video game in particular that you liked?
oh, what I grew up
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
Nice,
FIFA,
nice.
like,
OG games.
OG stuff, right?
Okay.
GoldenEye, come on. Zelda,
Nice, nice,
all
nice.
of them, right? So, in ninth grade in Jamaica, you get an opportunity to pick the subjects that you're going to be using
Wow.
or doing into the future, right?
Okay.
So if you wanted to be a doctor, you pick all the sciences, chemistry, physics, bio,
Nice,
right?
nice.
If you wanted to do business, you'd pick all the business subjects, principle of accounting, principle of business.
Nice.
And, if you wanted to do computer science, you pick all the computer science classes.
Nice. So those were the options that each would, like, whoever would want to pick.
Yeah, for the most part. Because
Okay.
in the Caribbean, like, your parents want you to...
They don't want you wasting time. I get it. Same thing in my
Doctor
Pakistani
and lawyer.
household.
Anything else, don't count. It's doctor or lawyer, right?
Always.
I knew I couldn't go to my parents and give
Yeah.
No, maybe these kids could because it's different. No,
Yeah.
but in 2003,
It wasn't a thing.
It wasn't.
Now it's a big thing, but
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? I like drawing.
Yeah.
So let me do architecture, right?
Okay.
It's a profession. You get, obviously you get a license through it, and the parents could, be like, okay, this is a respectable profession, and if you do well in it, you can make money in it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I think it was a happy medium between game design, being a person that enjoys drawing, enjoys the built environment. There are things that happen in Jamaica in the built environment that I wasn't happy with. Third world country, you have potholes everywhere.
Right.
And as a kid growing up, I'm like, I'm tired of hearing on the news there are potholes. Someone needs to fix this. And I've had incidents where friends had parents who passed away because of floods.
Oh, wow.
And if there was a bridge in the area or a way to transfer us from one side of the community to the next side of the community without going through what we call in Jamaica, we call it a gully.
Okay.
Which is an open channel flow where water kind of dissipates to the sea.
Got it. Okay.
But to get from one side to
you
the
have
next,
to go,
you
like...
have to sometime go through it.
Oh, wow.
Why isn't there a bridge there?
Yeah.
So
why so complicated?
These things would frustrate me as a kid. So
Okay.
that's why I kind of wanted to do architecture.
Yeah.
And then that's why I ended up doing civil engineering once I learned more about what engineers do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And when you got into NYU, you kind of knew already, like, hey, I'm going to do civil engineering. And, because I know a lot of courses, I'm sure you took some crazy courses, didn't you? Like,
yeah, so it's interesting. Like, when you go to engineering school, like, you already majority of the persons kind of already know what type of engineering they want to do, right? So there's not a lot of leeway in an engineering program.
It's very to the point on what it is, right?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like there's not enough space for you to like Miranda and take the scenic route.
Yeah.
It's like here are your subjects, and each class kind of build off the next class.
Okay.
And so you're just like, if you're going to do civil engineering, you're going to do civil engineering. You could maybe transfer to mechanical, but do it early, like the first and second year.
Okay.
And by third year, you're done. Like, you're locked in. There's no transferring without it being a cost, right?
Yeah. No, 100% agree. So, like, now 8 years in, what was, like, some of the first projects that you did? Because now I'm assuming you didn't get to all these big projects that you're talking about right away, right? So what was like your first project that was like you were like a little hesitant,
So one thing I want to pride or tell people that is whatever task someone gives you, no matter how small the task is, knock it out the park and just get it done and put yourself in a position where people know that you're someone that gets the job done, right? So believe it or not, right? You go to NYU, you have this big engineering degree, you got this mining, construction management, you think you're hot stuff.
Yeah.
The first thing I had to do on a project was basically, I spoke with the VP, it's like, we have these DOB drawings. So DOB drawings are these approved drawing sets.
Okay.
When the DOB comes on site to do an inspection, you have to pull out the drawing set.
And in New York, the Department of Building is always involved in the project, right?
100%.
Okay.
Especially big commercial jobs like yours, right? And so every project manager pulls these drawings and then they keep them at their desk.
Wow.
And they know the DOB's on site and no one knows where the drawing set is.
Yeah.
And it just becomes chaos to find the right drawing set.
Wow.
And he's like, listen, do us a favor and organize this for us. This is
Okay.
the first thing I want you to do. So day one, I grab all the folders. I grabbed the file cabinet. I put the file cabinet right in front of my desk. I went to all the project managers. I'm like, hand it over. I passed all the DOB drawings. We made a log. We made a log of all the DOB drawings. What's the name on the permitting number? And then I had an Excel sheet that I shared to everybody. And I became literally a librarian at the time. It's
Wow.
like, you can't get it unless you sign it out with me. I locked all the DOB drawings in the cabinet. And I organized it by row and column, right?
And at that time, though, was your title still in the PM, or did you
No,
get to PM?
You're a project engineer at this time,
Okay.
and so you're just out of school.
Yeah.
You never actually run a project before, and
Okay.
your job at that point
It's
is
just kind of understanding what's going on.
understanding the field of
Okay.
play, understanding how construction works,
Okay.
How the process of construction at commercial level works, right? And so he wanted me to a lot of people would get like perturbed by the fact that like you leave school and you think you're going to do this like mystical intellectual problem solving
Right.
that you see on TV. No, sometimes it's the most mundane task, but get it done anyway, because the reality is how much chaos was on the site when no one could find the drawings.
Right.
For the person is like this, everyone knows it's ridiculous, but no one has the time to sit down and organize it, right? And
Yeah.
so these small tasks, you have to think systems thinking. Think as a systems builder, right?
Right.
If you solve this problem, how much more smoother does the job go?
Right.
How
Right.
much more confidence do the trades have in the field that when the inspector comes on site, Aecom or whoever, is
You're ready with everything.
ready, everything
Yeah.
is prepared,
Yeah.
right? How does the client feel seeing that when the inspector is on site,
You're not prepared.
You're not prepared.
Yeah.
It's a $2.5 billion project. You know, so
They're losing faith on you.
so these little things erode confidence.
Okay.
Right? And ultimately, as a project manager, you're a captain on a ship, right? And you may not know the engine as well as the engine mechanic, which is your trades, but your trades are there looking for your confidence to guide the ship to the right destination,
Right.
right? And you don't have your map.
Yeah.
They're going to be nervous.
It's gonna be
Right?
yeah. It's not a good look
It's
at
not
all.
a good look, and it's also just chaotic, right?
Right.
So, to me, I could see that. I could see beyond the mundaneness of the
Yeah.
task. That's why I moved to that level of urgency. That's the
Yeah.
next thing to move with urgency,
Yeah.
move with pace, right?
Yeah.
Like, it could Miranda along. Like, the same day he told me no problem, I started looking for the cabinets. I put the cabinets in front.
Like no time was wasted.
No time.
You're
was
getting it
wasted.
done.
Let's get this done.
Yeah.
Let's get this Excel sheet set up. And announce to the team, this is what we're doing. This is
Yeah.
the new approach, right? Everyone's gonna come to me. I'm gonna own it. Take responsibility for
Right.
the task. And if there's a DOB drawing that's not in this folder, let me know, right?
Right.
Till this day, Citibank and other projects is
Yeah.
closed. Before it was closed and I have moved on to other projects,
Right.
people would still call me about that Excel
Wow.
sheet because it worked. It just
Yeah.
worked. It's like I could know exactly where the DOB drawing was,
Nice.
which cabinet and which row it was in. And
Yeah.
that was the first
That's
thing.
all you need to know.
But there's a byproduct that comes out of these small tasks, right?
Okay.
Now you get to meet all the project managers.
Yeah.
All the project managers get to meet you.
Yeah.
When they're going for the DOB drawing, you can ask a question. Oh, what are you walking? Can I walk with you?
Yeah.
So now you're walking with all the project managers. Now you're getting to see the project.
All right.
And so now you move from just like admin to information manager, right?
Okay.
No, I'm sending RFIs and submittals for the PMs. No, if I'm sending RFIs, which is request for
Yeah.
information to the architect for all the PMs, and doing all their submittals, which is getting approval for material. Every piece
Yeah.
of material we use on a job site gets approved by the design team.
Right.
There's a lead time associated on this material that the subcontractor has to go and purchase.
Okay.
So getting approvals up front is very important because when the guys need it in the field and it's not approved,
Then-
everyone's
yeah.
stuck. You got 8 guys in the field standing around
Wow.
with no approved material.
Did that ever happen, like with what you've seen in the field
Seen
yet?
all kind of crazy
Yeah.
things happen before, but yeah, in certain instances like that, you're
It's
gonna
like a
get every.
mishap that would
Of
just
course,
kind
but
of happen. Yeah.
you'll resolve it by asking the design
But it
team
goes
for
back
a
to that time
favor.
wasted.
Time lost. Like it could be a day. No, you have to run to the design team. It's
Um,
chaos now. Run to the design team. Can you take a look at this?
can they approve it right then and there?
No, you can't approve it right then and there. No, it's a new plan. We gotta fight. We can't let the
Wow.
guys just stand around. What
Yeah.
else is here for the guys to do
Yeah.
that we can,
It's
work on?
tough. Yeah.
And so to avoid that like mishap, this misstep, it's a dance between you and your trades.
Yeah.
And you keep crushing the toe, the person's not gonna want to dance with
Yeah.
you no more, right? So what you
Nah, I
gonna do?
agree.
Make sure your stuff is in order. Get the submittals in on time. Get the RFIs in on time. Get the DOB drawings organized.
Right.
These are like simple.
This is like the first step for an entry level person to just understand the requirements
But
to have.
you know what's nice though? Once you do that very well, people start trusting you.
Right.
When I talk about trusted advisor, all the PMs start trusting you.
Nice.
And they'll start giving you more responsibility because they have a lot on their plate. Also, opportunities will open up, right?
Yeah.
So, say a PM gets sick, say someone moves on to a different project. You've been doing all of this RFIs and submittals. You kind of know what's going on the
Yeah.
project at an intimate level, just as a PM,
Yeah.
right? So it's be easier to transition you into the role to take over.
Then
his
starting
role
from scratch.
than starting
Yeah.
from scratch. So things, build on top of things,
Yeah.
right? And it's a build. No wall isn't built without putting one brick beside the next
Yeah.
brick, right? So just make the conscious effort, whatever task you get, to just knock it out the park.
Right.
One effort that I made on my part is recognizing that there's two sides of construction, right? There's the PM side and then there's a superintendent side,
Yeah.
which all fall in construction, right?
Okay.
And so the PM can be like, for analogy's sake, the offensive coordinator, right? And then the superintendent is more like the quarterback, right? He's in the field. That's what they call it, on site or in the field, right? And so the tactical differences between the two. Think about an offensive coordinator. They're both, running the play
Yeah.
like the quarterback, but the speed of play is different as a superintendent than an offensive
Right.
coordinator, right? And if they're not calling the same play, then it's just a mess.
It's a mess. Yeah.
Right? So they have to be on the same, vantage point.
Yeah.
And sometimes a super is going to call a play that the offensive coordinator may not think is the play, but you trust your super because he's the guy in the field and he's the one running the job in the field. So I wanted to learn it all. And
Yeah.
so even though I was in the office, I made an effort to always go to the supers meeting.
And are you more in the field now more than ever? Like, are you always going state to state to different things?
So
Like,
in different parts of my career, I was in different areas because
Okay.
I prided myself on wanting to learn
Yeah.
as much as I could, right? That was always my guiding star. Learn as much as you
Like you had the fire to just
Fire.
learn it all.
Because, like I said, an athlete, right?
Yeah.
If you can drive, playing basketball, if you can drive left,
Yeah.
but you can't drive right, then you kind of pigeonhole yourself, right?
Yeah.
But if you can drive left, you can drive right, you can post up, you can pass. There's so much dimensions to your game now that you become that next, trans international or transformative player, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you can really just do everything. Right?
Adapt to any situation,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
So for me, it was like, well, yeah, I can understand the PM side, but to be a really good PM, you should know how to build.
Yeah.
So
Like see with your own eyes a project built from beginning to end. I know you showed me one on video, which was very nice. So
it's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, I went to the supers meeting. I went downstairs. They're
Yeah.
like, what are you doing down here? I was like, I want to learn how to build.
Awesome.
Like, I'm not going to
Awesome.
learn that upstairs. I'm going to learn that from you guys.
Yeah.
And so, similar to being upstairs, like it starts off with small tasks. Could be just like, hey, I'm in a meeting right now. There's a tradesman outside. He needs to get inside.
right.
Just carry him inside and show him where we need him to work, right?
Yeah.
It starts off as simple as that, right? You do that, you knock it out the park. It's like, all right, well, you know him, you have his number. Next time when he comes, I'm going to give him to talk to you.
Yeah.
You're going to go with the drawing, you're going to tell him what you need him to work on. All right, you do that, it starts working through, and then it's like, all right, well, listen, I have this other thing I need to take care of. These 3 trades are here, start organizing them. And slowly but surely, you start taking on superintendent work.
Nice.
Like you're like running work in the field.
Yeah.
So I was always busy because now
Yeah.
I'm upstairs running work. With
And you also took on. Also, you wanted to take the responsibility. You're like, yo, give me a shot and
Take it.
and watch me.
Take it and double down on it because
Yeah.
what would happen though, I'm sitting in the supers meeting. I'm like, no, that's not approved upstairs yet. You can't
Yeah.
find that work yet. be like, oh, I didn't know that because they're not upstairs
Right.
caring when the approvals are coming through. No, I'm upstairs with the
Yeah.
PMs. I'm like, that's not what your super is planning.
Yeah.
Your super is planning. No, you become someone that people rely on for
Right. Because
accurate
they know you double
information.
checked and you made sure what
And
is going on and what's not
you're
going
in the
on.
mix of everything. I'm in
Yeah.
the mix of what's going on in the field. I'm in the mix of what's going on
Yeah.
upstairs. I'm the one sending the submittals. I'm the one sending the RFIs. So at some point, even you don't know the information,
Yeah.
let's ask Ramon. Let's see if he knows. He probably knows what's going on
Nice.
downstairs. And so, but it's a lot of work though.
Of course, I can imagine.
Because you're taking on really.
I think like it's the thing like what you're doing at Tishman, the title and everything sounds great, but people don't understand the actual work that you're doing. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And really, that additional wanting to work with the supers may not be on the title description.
Yeah.
Like it might not have been, or also include working with this. That was something that I added as a tier. I don't care what the title is.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn how to build, and I'm not going to learn it just doing the paperwork. I need to see the guys in the field doing the work.
Right.
How are you going to build an accurate schedule if you don't know how long it takes the wall
Yeah.
to be built, right? How are you going to work with your super if you can't? You're good administratively, but you haven't seen how the guys, how much pain it
Yeah.
goes through to do the things that are called out in an
Yeah.
RFI request.
That's why when you're speaking in the meetings, you're looking at it also from their perspective.
100%.
So you know how to mitigate that meeting
100%.
when it's Monday morning and then you got to go at it, for the
Yeah.
week.
Because there's the
Like,
guys who are actually, they were waking up 6
Yeah.
a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning, drinking their coffee.
yeah.
There's no praise that's given to them.
Yeah.
They get screamed at the whole day, and if they do a good job, no one gives
Yeah.
you applause. And when you do a bad job, everyone's screaming.
See, I think that's what differentiate like makes you different from other project managers because you go above and beyond in your role, and then you're also making sure you understand everything that's going on, even from every team.
Yeah.
So then when you're talking or when you have to give communication to the other people, then you're like, hey, this is what's going on, just so you guys know, and then this is how it's done. And I feel like there's a lot of PMs that might not take those extra steps, and they'll
100%.
kind of learn the consequences during or afterwards of the project.
Right. Well, they don't know why
You know?
the super is screaming at
Yeah.
on the top of his voice why you're
Yeah.
doing what you're doing doesn't work, right? Because again, there's a blind spot to the
Yeah.
approach. One of the pain points that I had to solve now is that I was my own PM at Super, right?
Yeah.
So I would schedule a delivery. This happened to me once, and
Yeah.
the dock master just ripped me to shreds. He was just like, but in any case, I scheduled the delivery, right? And didn't check in with the dock master, and the delivery comes,
Yeah.
and yeah, I measured how to get it there, and all the supers was laughing. It was just a good. It was
Yeah.
one of those good moments where everyone's like, "All right, now you feel the pain of what
Yeah.
goes on downstairs, right?"
No, that's good
And
stuff.
I was just getting lit up at the
Yeah.
dock. He's like, "What you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, send the email." He said, "I don't care about no email.
Yeah.
Call me. You see me in the meeting all the
Yeah.
time. Give me a call, right?" And so, like, one of the things I recognize is like, okay, just sending out an email as a PM, it's like it's real comfortable, right?
Yeah.
But then, what is the process behind that email?
Right.
Well, a delivery is coming in. What's the size of the delivery? Who's unloading it?
Yeah.
What's
Make it very clear so no mistakes
because
will
when it
happen.
happens in the field,
Yeah.
it's harder to fix. Did you
Yeah.
plan the path to where you're going to go?
And their mind and the mind on the field, you're like all over the place, so you don't got time to verify and double check.
And then there's when you have projects where
Yeah.
it's so big, these delays cause other delays because someone
Wow.
else was planning to use the dock right after you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you only get an hour inside the dock.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 other deliveries behind yours.
Right.
So you gotta hit it and get out, right?
Wow, that's crazy.
So, yeah.
So with everything kind of being said now, are you looking to move up within Aecom, or do you want to do some other things or some personal projects in the next like 5-6 years?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, right? One is this data center construction is really a new part of construction.
So you
that's
think
really
we'll
growing.
start seeing a lot more of these happening
It's
throughout
already
the country?
happening. It's already happening.
Nice.
Blackstone's putting $20 billion into data
Wow.
center construction.
That's insane.
Right?
That's insane.
Related is already working on 2 major projects, one out in Chicago, next one out in South
Yeah.
Dakota. Like, there's so much projects in data center construction.
And it's only gonna go
it's
more up.
only, well, think about it, right?
Yeah.
This is think through the process because I
Yeah.
really in 2020 when COVID happened, I sat at home and I was thinking like, okay, I was working in commercial interiors, if everyone's at home, and COVID was a really sad point in
Yeah.
our life and culture, but it also was a social experiment that
Yeah.
can people really work from home? Because before
Yeah.
construction, there was no one's working from home.
Everyone's physically there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we recognize, and a lot of industry recognize that it is possible to be productive working from home. But well, if everyone's working from home, that data has to get transferred back and forth and
Yeah.
stored somewhere. Where is it being stored? The cloud is a physical location.
Yeah.
And it's called a data center.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you have more podcasts uploaded to TikTok or
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram, everyone else
You need more data centers.
it's not what you
Yeah.
consider digital infrastructure,
Yeah.
right? Because regardless, we're not getting rid of Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah. They're gonna be there forever, and they're gonna continue to be more.
Just like
Yeah.
everyone, the moment someone gets a new iPhone and starts taking pictures and uploading it to the cloud,
Yeah.
there will have to be a data center associated
Wow.
with it. So it's just one of those industries that has always been ever evolving and ever growing.
Nice.
So as it pertains to data center construction, that's where my focus is right
Nice.
now in the next year or two.
Nice.
But ultimately, I told you about being back in Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
So my story at ninth grade was a little different than everyone else's.
Okay.
Story, because everyone else at the time, they picked subjects that made sense for the career that they were going to do, right?
Right. That their parents told them to kind of focus on.
I'm not proud, but so my school at the time, a lot of big doctors,
Right.
a lot of lawyers. Let's just say that, right?
Okay.
That wasn't going to fit for me. I just knew that was not. I've never been wanting to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Wasn't my interest. Never wanted to be.
Did it ever cross your mind though, like, hey, maybe I might want to, or you were like, nah, it's just really not
Yeah, I've
it.
always just been my own person.
Okay.
Like in that
Okay.
regard, and like.
But the
And-
people
and-
around you, I'm assuming, were trying to become
100%.
doctors and
100%.
in business and stuff like that.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, business is not that I knew I had the zeal for. I like business, and the way I learned how to manage a
Yeah.
job site, I learned from my uncle in Jamaica. He
Wow.
was a car dealer, and he had employees. And the
Wow.
first job I had was to work in his office.
No way.
As an
Awesome.
admin, right?
Awesome.
But he was his own boss, right? He set his own hours. He ran his own business, and his family did very well, and they continue to do very well.
Wow.
But one thing I learned from him is that he always treats his employees
Yeah.
well, right? Regardless of what these guys on a Friday, they were going to sit down, they're going to have food, he was going to treat them well. And people work above and beyond
Yeah.
when they feel respected and heard, right? And that's what he made sure that they felt respected and heard. But he was always fair but firm. Like when things was out of order, he's going to set you straight.
Yeah.
But he's still with love. Like it's not. I'm not doing it to browbeat you. It's that this needs to be done properly.
Yeah.
But it's still respectful. So I learned that I wanted to do entrepreneurship early in my life. Like that's somebody I wanted
Nice.
to be like. Eventually, I feel like, for instance, LeBron or say Kobe, right? All of these athletes that we look towards, they technically are employees for a company.
Yep.
The company is the Lakers or
Yeah.
the NBA. At the time after their employment in the league, I think corporate America is the league, right? They have other things that they move.
Then
on
they
to.
have other opportunities to invest in the time. But when it's game season, they're playing ball.
But the point is like, there's a season for everything, right?
Yeah.
So there's a season for corporate for me, and then there's going to be a season for what happens after
I like that, yeah.
corporate, right? Because again, I'm paralleling it with my athletic mindset,
Right.
right? An athlete is, there's a season for you to
Yeah.
be an amazing athlete. And then what happens after that,
Right.
right? The good thing is, as an intellectual athletes like us, our season is super long.
Yeah.
Because you can continue this your whole life. But what I would like to do is transition into my entrepreneurial dreams at some point. But my point, let me carry it back to Jamaica.
Yeah.
So, the subjects that I picked, right? I picked building technology, right? Technical drawing, which is looking at drawings. Computer science.
Yeah.
Art, right? Principles of business, math, chemistry, and English.
Wow. Nice.
All of those subjects I use to this day.
Nice.
But at the time in ninth grade when I picked those, so everyone was looking at me like I
Yeah.
had 4 eyes. Like,
Like, why this?
I do building technology.
Yeah.
You come to one of the best high schools
Yeah.
in Jamaica to do building construction technology.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, when people get successful and rich, what are the two things they want? Like, what do you think are the two things that someone buys when they get really ultra
I
successful?
think they get like a car, they get some crazy
They
like a
get a car.
watch,
They get a
like
car. What else they get?
they get a house,
They get a house.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm just think about the high school I went to, right? To get into these high schools, they're traditional high schools in
Okay.
Jamaica. You take an exam in sixth grade
Wow.
called the Grade 6 Achievement Test.
Okay.
To get into these schools, you have to pass with a 90 and above
Okay.
from grade 6.
Wow.
So that means this person's already shown a propensity to be exceptional
Right.
already, right? From sixth grade.
Yeah.
No, you have all of these really smart kids going to all these traditional high schools
Yeah.
with all the best teachers in Jamaica.
It's like they're made to be successful. They were like the process for them was like you're going to be successful and we're gonna help you get there.
Right. No, all of them are going to eventually become super successful. They're going to also want to buy a car
Buy a house.
and have a house. Everyone's being a doctor and a
Yeah.
lawyer. Who's going to build the house?
That's a very good
I'm
point.
gonna do
That's a
that.
very good point. I like that.
So at that point, I was like, all right, this makes sense. You know, everyone's going to be super successful. They're going to do their thing. I know that I wanted to work in construction, but not as a tradesman itself. And that's
Right.
the next point too. Like, there's so much
Opportunities,
avenues
yeah.
in construction that most people don't really understand. Like, you could be an accountant in construction.
Yeah.
That's such a phenomenal job because part of the problem, or not wouldn't say problem, but part of the massive job of construction managers is to track the numbers.
Like a construction could get 1,000 different
Oh my God.
skill sets in there because it's just so much going on.
There's so much going on. You have
Legal team, you got this.
God. There's so much different rabbit. Insurance alone is
man.
its own rabbit hole that you can go very deep in and become.
It's funny because in the waste, we have our own insurances and stuff that we have, and it's a lot. And I can't even imagine how much it is for a company like Aecom. Like, what insurances are they getting to even insure these buildings?
Oh my God. The
That's
numbers
insane.
are
I can't
nuts.
even comprehend like how crazy that would be.
It's part of our job. We can't. Our accounting team doesn't allow us to pay any subs unless their insurance is 100% up to date
Wow.
with their certificate.
That's a very important.
Everything had on that side of the business, and there's, like I said, there's this curtain where like you have operations in the field.
Yeah.
And just think of American football. There's so much things that
Going
happen
on.
off the field
Yep.
to get to what you see on the field, right? There's someone managing inventory. There's someone making sure that the players are there on time. There's someone making sure the water and the facility is clean so the guys don't get staph infection. There's so much things that
That's going
happen
on.
in the background. And even beyond that, there's someone who's just watching the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Seeing how much injuries we have, how can we mitigate this injury? Like there's so much things that happen outside of construction, what you see day to day.
Yeah.
That there's so much industry professionals that can work in there, right? So accountants, lawyers, again, where I said about contracting, the root word is contract. The contract as a project manager is your sword. It's your way to provide order and direction.
That's your route, and that's your protection right there.
100%.
Yeah.
It's in the contract. You purchase the contract. You purchase the time of performance in the contract. So if I told you you're going to do the job in 8 months, and we're 6 months in, you got to man the job accordingly to get it done in 8 months because that's what we bought in the contract.
Right.
So your contract becomes.
It's very straightforward, and if you don't follow it, then things happen, I guess.
Terms and conditions, like I was telling you before we got online, is like I've been watching Suits, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching Suits.
Harvey Specter over there.
I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, I would do that. Yeah, that's what I actually had a conversation while I was traveling for work, and I stumbled into a lawyer by accident, and we were just talking about contracts.
Yeah.
And she's like, for the level of understanding you have for contracts, you should try and do law. I was like, that's funny. Of all the things,
that's true. I imagine you're probably before anything starts, you're always in a part of that contract stage.
Yeah,
I'm assuming, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, contract is like what? So the stages of construction, right? And your growth in construction. So before I was doing superintendent / project work, right? But before I would get contracts that were already written.
Wow.
And then I would administer the contract. That's the next level when you running your own work, right? So at one point I was doing elevators, but I didn't write the contract. I
And how big were these elevators? Can you just explain?
$34 million worth of scope of
And how many floors would that elevator cover?
40 floors.
40 floors?
40
Wow.
floors. And one
Wow.
of them, we actually had to demo the entire
That's
elevator
crazy,
while
yeah.
people are inside the building, rebuild it, and then put new the elevator openings on each floor.
40 floors
Yeah.
elevator, man.
And we have
3 floors, the super at the regular buildings are you're not even fixing, so that's crazy.
and it's multiple. You're talking about multiple banks of elevators,
Right,
So
right.
you're talking about 3 or 4 banks of elevators, with each elevator bank having 8 elevators, right? You're talking about a client who expect excellence,
Yeah.
right? They're spending a lot of money. They don't want to be out of service with the elevators.
Right.
You have to work around their schedule,
Right.
not the other way around.
Yeah,
right?
no. That's never the truth. I wanted to go back to you said something about intellectual athlete. Like, what's can you define that? What is that? You know?
Yeah, so for me, an intellectual athlete is someone who is have an athletic mindset, but you're not a physical athlete. You're not running.
Okay.
You're not jumping or
Yeah.
cutting or doing agility drills. But there are things that an athlete who's an intellectual athlete is doing, especially in project management, would be negotiation,
Nice.
following up on following through.
Okay.
People don't see that as a super important skill, but if someone sends you an email, right, and there's a follow up that needs to happen in that email,
Yeah.
and you just make it die on the vine, that causes delays on your jobs. And all these small 1 day, 2 day, 3 day delays, they add up
Yeah.
towards the end, right? And so your speed of play, right? When you're playing a sport, when you're playing in the minor leagues, when you watch Premier League football,
Yeah.
the speed of play is different. The decision making is much
100%.
faster, right? And so if you're taking that same mind frame, if you want to be in the highest level of whatever profession you're going to do, the speed of play, the velocity at which you play,
Right.
the time you have to make a decision. I mean, think about Messi
Yeah.
or boxers.
Yeah.
How quickly they have to make a decision.
It's 1
And
second,
they-
less
and
than
they
a
have to
second,
be-
or you get or
they
it
have
messes
to
up.
be fast, they have to be precise.
Yep.
And they have to be accurate, right? And so a lot of times people might say you can be fast, but you won't be accurate. And
Right.
that's not quite true. If you drill hard enough and it becomes part of your well-being, and it becomes part of
Yeah.
you can be fast and precise because
Yeah.
people do it. Like when you watch these guys come into the
It's just training.
drills and training,
Yeah.
and it's mundane hard work, right? It's mundane day-to-day grindy work.
I feel like you just gotta want it. You really gotta want to be the best
Best.
in what you're doing,
100%.
and then you're gonna be successful. I think if you,
100%.
because I never met anyone that wasn't crazy about something didn't get that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing. So what else do you do aside from work and everything? You know, like you seem like a gym guy. You look pretty big to me. Is that something that you kind of do occasionally? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
so for me, like, one of the things that I pride myself on is just reminding myself of the realities of life. So strength and development is super important
Okay.
to me. So right now, I started my jiu-jitsu journey,
nice. No way.
and it is tough work.
How's that like? Like how like
It's good.
are you doing with other people are involved? And I'm
Yeah.
assuming, right?
So right
Okay.
now, I'm at a jiu-jitsu gym called Royal Jiu-Jitsu,
Yeah.
and I mean, I know I'm an animal in construction.
Yeah.
And my discipline, but then you go to other places and you're just a little punk. You're just
I think you and
starting
I think you and Nura gotta go and do a one-on-one, man.
Yeah, I'm just a little pump in that area because they're, like I said, you have different people, different classes, different years of experience, and you come in, you check your ego at the door, and anyone
You get humbled real fast,
get
right?
humbled real fast, and you go, okay, all right, but it's also a part of skill development. And being
Yeah.
around a competitive environment where you see how people are diligent in their preparation, right? Like some of these guys who are competing, they're competing 2-3 times of the month.
Right.
I mean, I go on my Instagram post, I'm posting about something else. They're 6 a.m. classes, two times of the day.
Yeah.
In between that, they're making sure they're getting their sleep. They're jogging, they're stretching.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, these guys. While I'm at my desk working, these guys are working.
And so how often like is this activity that you've been doing like with jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
and
So for me, I try my best to do 2-3 times a week.
Okay.
Most times it works out to be 1 time a
Okay.
week.
But you try every week to just get it in.
Just get it in.
Nice.
But there's other things that I do outside of jiu-jitsu. So right now tennis used to be one of my favorite activities.
Okay.
Tennis was So there's two things that I would consider in my life were like pivotal moments to give me that aha moment.
Yeah.
Right. There are two. One was on tennis. The next one was dealing with the problem I had with doing math.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the first one first. So tennis. I was a short, fat kid.
Yeah.
I was a short, fat kid. And my mom wanted me to play tennis. I didn't initially want to play tennis. So I go on the tennis court,
Yeah.
and the tennis coach is putting the ball over here, putting the ball over here. I'm running, I can't catch the ball. Everyone's laughing. It's just complete embarrassment.
I forgot this.
And, I was like, you know what? Game on. I'm going to try and get really good at this. So what did I do? After class, I would just play against the wall.
Nice.
Play
Okay.
against myself, right? At break time when everyone else was like playing marbles or...
You were like, hey, let me get some tennis. Let me play some tennis.
I just play at that time. After school, I was playing tennis. What happens now is that diligent, consistent work, I started losing weight.
Wow.
I started losing weight. I started getting to the ball. Now that I'm getting to the ball, something that was an unintended consequence of being a heavy kid is that you're strong.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting to the ball. Now I can hit the ball.
Yeah.
Now I'm hitting the ball with pace and power, so I'm pushing people off the court. So now what was my disadvantage is now an advantage, right? Now at that point of that diligent work, the coach starts paying attention to you, like, you want it. I'm going to give in to you. I'm going to give you more so you can,
test you. Go to the max. Yeah.
Now at that point, you see yourself getting better.
Yeah.
People see yourself getting better. The laughs don't turn into laughs anymore. They turn into applause. They turn into, okay.
They switch out real fast, right? They laugh in the beginning and then they clapping in the end.
The laughing is not laughing anymore at that point, right? And at that point in 6th grade, I became regional tennis champion and national tennis champion. Amazing. And at that point also, I passed for my high school that I went to Arden High. Shout out to Arden High. And then I also I had the principal's award because not only did I excel academically at that time, but also you're on TV for being a national tennis champion. Yeah. But you had to get through that muck of being laughed at, being the fat kid running around in the tennis court, right? So at that moment, I recognized, if this works for tennis, it will work for anything else you're doing. Yeah. It could be business. It could be art. It could be soccer. Whatever you decide to do, if you do it with enough intensity and consistency over time, eventually you're doing a lot of work and you're not seeing the results, and then the results happen, and then people think it's like an accident. You know what I like about the story that you just said? Yeah. It's the people that don't think that you're going to make it, and once you make it and succeed, then they get quiet. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I use that as fuel. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the best thing. Take that negativity 100%. And show everyone that, okay, now I'm going to work. Now I'm going to show you guys when I work, this is what happens. 100%. So to me, it's like, honestly, I'm happy that there are people like that. Honestly, because it's needed. Most times, most people, they self-sabotage themselves. Yeah. Right? The self-sabotage, if you can avoid self-sabotage. And replace it with better things. Go to the gym, focus on work, do some activity, then 100%. You kill it. You become a killer. You become a killer. Killer. Most people self-sabotage themselves in different ways. It's self-doubt. Self-doubt is one. Fear is the next one. And not being able to overcome those challenges. It really can just get you stuck in the mud. It's your mind. Your mind has to be on your side, and you gotta make it in your side, But for the mind, for me, that's why I do jiu-jitsu, and that's why I'm like right now doing these other challenges. Yeah. Like become a beginner again, get schooled again. Why? Because it forces you to put yourself in a position where you have to overcome a challenge again, right? Like you have to. Complacency is like cancer. Yeah. Because it grows. It grows inside you. If you don't get rid of complacency fast before what you've developed or grown, it'll erode over time. So like you're never really a straight line. You're either going up or down, right? Yeah. And like over time, as you're growing. If you're doing good things, you're doing positive things, you consistently work. There's these moments, just like we were talking about stocks, where a stock is consolidating, right? Yeah. It's building up pressure to move to the upside or the downside. Yeah. Which side is it going to break? Right. Because whatever side it is, it's the strong side. Yeah. Life also, like you're building up momentum with every consistent action that you're right about that. And so if you put in consistent positive action, don't worry about the result. Because over time you're going up. slowly
Yeah.
but surely, and then it's going to
Yeah.
exponentially jump up,
Yeah.
just like in the stock
Yeah.
market.
We don't know what day it is. We don't know what week it is, but it just happens. And you look back and you're like, wow.
And when it happens, people will be like, "Oh, that was luck." No, it was my hard
Years
work
of work. Years of work.
meeting
Yeah.
opportunity. It's like I always think of like a bullseye, right?
Yeah.
I could throw at the bullseye and I could keep missing, but one of the times I could hit it. What are you gonna say when I hit it?
Yeah.
Right? But if I don't throw the bullseye, I guarantee that I'll never hit it. Right?
100%.
And so it's just like it's just a game of just keep throwing,
Yeah.
keep touching it, keep
Believe it,
trying.
like, bet on yourself to get it done. And that's what I live by. I'm like, I bet on me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it happen. I don't care if you bet on me or not. Like, I'm gonna go for it, you know?
Go for it.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the great mindset, you know, to have. And speaking of stocks, is that I know we had a great conversation. I even told you about the MicroStrategy
That
stock, you know.
that was a great play.
So
That was a great
that's funny. I've been yapping about MicroStrategy since last year.
that was a great play. That was a
So-
good move. Yeah.
So are you personally? Is that something that you like to do? Trading, is that a part of like kind of in your ecosystem? You know,
So in 2020, when
COVID crash,
COVID crashed,
March. I remember March 23.
at home there, and my wife at the time, like we took some money out. We took a loan against our 401k. We took the money out. We're like, listen, we want to buy a home in the future.
Yeah.
We don't want the market to wipe it out.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the meantime, let's buy some stocks that are
So
low.
at what point did you take it out? You were just like right during that time or right?
Right to middle of March, basically.
Oh, you were like, yo, let me get it out and then let's figure it out later.
It's a loan at that
Yeah,
time.
okay.
It wasn't like a
Smart.
disperse.
That's
Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
So that and it's important to kind of clarify.
Right,
I
right.
didn't take a disbursement.
Right.
I took a loan that I
Against
paid
your 401k.
against
Smart.
the
That's so
401k.
smart because the money was already there. You don't have to take it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
And so I took a loan against a
Very
401k.
smart.
And then later on,
Yeah.
they had this like program where you could take it out without any penalties.
Okay.
But before that even happened,
Yeah.
I already took out a loan.
Yeah. You just wanted that security.
Of course.
That's smart.
I
Very
wanted to
smart
put it
move.
to the side.
Yeah.
And at that time, we started buying stocks. But when we bought the stocks went up $200-$300.
Yeah.
And there are persons that we seen on Instagram like making
Yeah.
$3,000-$4,000.
Crazy.
on
Crazy.
A trade. I'm like, my wife is like, what is this? What
Yeah.
is this options? I'm like, it's too risky. There's no
Yeah,
way we
yeah,
can get into that. Blase.
Yeah.
And she found a course. She bought the course and she sent it to me. In her words, exactly.
Oh, she liked it. She was like, let me learn about.
She's like, you're
Options.
gonna use that big head of yours, right? And you're gonna learn this.
And figure it
She's
out.
a nurse. She was at work.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like, you're gonna,
But I like how she knows you're smart enough to figure it out.
like, you're gonna use that big head of yours.
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure this
Yeah.
out, right? Because clearly there's some move going on here that we're not privy
Right.
to.
Right.
And so I sat down with the program. It was already bought. I'm looking through it, and I'm like, all right. So I've heard about options, right? And I'm sure, like my dad has in his MBA, he's
Yeah.
heard about options, but
Wow.
he's never actually taken the options.
Right,
trade
right,
before. I really believe that being in the mix and doing it
Yeah.
teaches you so much.
100%. When your own money is invested, you already know how it is.
So, the first trade I took was
Yeah.
on Moderna.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It was after Moderna thought they had figured out how to
Right.
get the COVID vaccine, and then on the news they said that the moment Moderna popped,
Yeah.
the CEOs and the high execs in the company sold the stock. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
pump and dump. It's
Yeah.
gonna dump.
Within the own company. That's
I
the
was
crazy
like,
thing.
This is gonna drop.
Yeah.
So it did.
And it
drop.
did drop significantly.
So at that moment,
Yeah.
I was like, I went through the program.
Yeah.
I learned the difference between a put versus a call.
Call and
I
yeah.
was like, well, let me put a put in.
Okay.
Right? And I put the put in, and that day I made like $500.
Crazy.
But think about it. I had money I pulled out
Yeah.
in my account from a 401k, and when I bought stocks, I only made maybe $300-$400 maybe in the day.
Yeah.
Over the
Yeah.
space of a month. And in a day, I was making $500 by getting the direction right.
Stupid money.
I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then it just got even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because we started taking trades against Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, in one day, you're bringing in 8K,
Yeah.
14K, right? Maybe you lose some the other day, 2 or 3, but overall, like, then you start recognizing why people learn this skill of trading and spend so much time learning it, because it's an opportunity to scale if
Right.
you learn it right. Of course you lose. But if you learn how to win more than you lose, that's how these guys are making money. Their money is not tied to their time at
Yeah.
work. It's tied to their ability to take risk and get the direction right. And so we became very profitable traders that year,
Nice,
right? And
nice.
of course, other years we got
2020 was the
trouble.
money year.
Paid off some student
Nice,
loans.
smart,
Things
smart.
was, good at that time. Years after that, I had to become a lot smarter with my trading.
Okay.
And so no, and then also, you don't have the luxury of being home watching the
Yeah.
market because we had
Yeah.
a system. I mean, I had my
Yeah.
thinker
It's
swing.
funny in like 2020, 2021, even going into 2022, I was I was just home,
Yeah,
literally just picking stocks and looking at what options to do. And I'm more of like
yeah,
I just straight naked calls or puts.
right.
I'm a more bull than
Okay.
a bear.
Which, yeah, that
So
makes sense. Yeah.
and I put all my bets at the time like on Tesla, Amazon, and that was it. I was like the Elon Musk fanboy at the time, and it
Tesla,
hit significantly
Tesla's going
before the
crazy.
splits. And
Before the splits,
before the
right?
splits, it was like 25 something hundred, and I was in a contract while it went to that
Oh
number.
my god.
So those contracts just became insanely stupid, and then I was like, "What the hell am I doing in school
Right.
and working for what? I just made money right here, But
Right.
but I learned it's not consistent either. You have that year where you bank it,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people didn't come out alive.
It's a competitive environment,
It's
and
tough.
the New York stock market.
Because when you make 100,000, someone lost 100,000 on the opposite side.
Side.
So you already know.
And like I said, it's a competitive
Yeah.
environment, and if you're not diligent and you're not in it every day, like how that person is,
Yeah.
you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose more than you gain.
Yeah.
And so I had to change or
The method,
modify
yeah.
my strategy to compensate for my ability to not be able to watch the market every day.
Yeah.
So my strategies now are more delta neutral, which
Right.
means like I'm not picking a direction, I'm picking a range in which
It's going to hit.
it needs to stay in.
And as long as it's in there, you profit from that.
I profit
Nice.
from that.
And what is it called exactly?
So the ones that I use
Yeah.
are called calendar spreads.
Okay.
Right? And so we can get into this rabbit hole
Yeah.
where you're talking about stocks. You have
Yeah.
naked, you said naked.
You have naked,
right?
then you have
Then you have spreads where you're
iron
selling.
condors, and I think those different,
So iron condors
yeah.
are two types of spread.
Yeah.
You have a call credit spread and then
Yes.
you have a put credit spread,
Yeah.
and in between it you're ranging, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the ways you can play the neutral game.
Okay.
But I find that anytime it starts getting close to any of those spreads, you really start feeling pain on one side.
Because it really needs to be in that middle range to really bank that.
Right.
Yeah,
And so
I know what you mean.
I started doing calendar spreads
Okay.
because it's more forgiving when it starts coming out the range.
Yeah.
Meaning that it doesn't cost so much money to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm like, okay, if I do a calendar spread, you're not playing the delta game, and also you start playing the deterioration of theta.
Yeah.
And so what
And theta for those who don't know is like it's the most annoying thing.
depends the type of trader you are.
Right.
Though. If you're a naked call, naked.
Or even if you
theta
sell
is pretty
puts, then
Well, selling an option, you're theta positive, meaning
Okay.
that you're making money with time passing.
yeah,
And
which is in your favor.
in your favor.
That's a good theta
That's
that
a
you
good
need to
theta.
have. Yes.
Yeah, when you do naked calls and puts, especially when it's within the 30 days that an option contract will expire,
Yeah.
theta decay significantly
Yeah.
becomes a problem.
Yeah.
That's why when you buy these out of money or in the money,
Out of money. The worst one to buy. Out of money and weekly.
oh God,
You're done. You
better
burnt
be-
your money right
You
there.
better be an amazing trade
Yeah.
to take a trade like
Yeah.
that. Like you better know the stock was
That's
run.
that's why we have Wall Street bets for everybody like that. They're
Yeah.
crazy, and they lose all the money that they're
Yeah.
investing in. But no, that's good stuff. So, just kind of wrapping everything up, is there anything that you really want to say to everyone that want to kind of get in the industry? Is going to NYU, getting a civil engineering degree, the route to do it? Are there other ways to get into project management? And then kind of what would you recommend? for
Yeah,
those?
so multiple ways to get into project management. You could just go to school for construction management. There's no need for you to get a whole engineering degree and then go into construction management.
And are there a lot of math classes and calculus classes you have to take as you're doing that, right? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. You go all the way up to calculus 3.
Now, are you taking like any? Do you need any exam from the city that you have to take, or a certificate from the city to kind of do what you're doing in PM? Are there such things like that?
Yeah, you could take the PMP.
Okay.
But usually the PMP you get after you have like a couple of years of experience. But like you remember what we said about trading, the best way to learn is just doing.
Yeah.
The best way to you could read as much books as you want about the recipes of being a cook.
Yeah.
If you don't cook, you don't put the stove, you put the pot on the
Yeah.
stove and cook. You're not a cook. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So the only way you're gonna learn is being there with a master cook or someone who is more experienced than you, and
Right.
have them kind of guide you through the process of cooking, right? Or being a project manager.
100%.
And then at that point, slowly but surely, you start doing your own small projects, and then you scale from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could read about all the recipes you want in the book, but you need to
Until you do it.
it doesn't
It's the
come.
best learning lesson.
Listen, it don't come.
Yeah.
Doing action is the best learning lesson.
Awesome.
And it hurts, but it's worth it because those pain
Gotta work.
points- I've been in projects where I'm closing the project
Yeah.
out and it's been a mess. So because I know how it gets at closeout, when I'm writing contracts, I write it in a way that I'm thinking of closeout, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been in the field and I've seen how things are done in the field and how things can erode and problems can emerge because someone didn't write the contract properly. Because I felt that pain in the field,
Yeah.
I write that pain in my contract. That way, whoever is being past me, if I had to pass my contract on to somebody
They
else,
get you.
they'll be like, oh, thank God somebody
Yeah.
thought about this, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just knowing these pains.
Yeah.
The pain is where you learn, and that's what you use to fuel your success.
And not feel it again.
And not
just
feel it again and seal it off.
Right.
But to your point, how you get into project
Yeah.
management, how I approached getting into construction.
Like Aecom was kind of just in your circle for you to be like, hey, let me just go to Aecom, or why not go to Turner, or why not go there? Like
I had my approach to job searching, and even at the time, my department head actually called me into into his office, and he's like, Ramon, sit down for a second. He's like, I looked through your grades. Your grades were all right. You weren't no 4.0 GPA guy,
Yeah.
but you weren't below a 3, right? Like you were all right, but you had 8 offers out of school. Like,
Yeah.
what did you do? And I was like, well, one is that I applied like a madman. I had like an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
Right.
you have to.
And then I tracked it on my Excel sheet. I was like, what's the top construction companies? I didn't just only do construction companies.
Yeah.
I did engineering companies. I did Con Ed. I did National Grid. And I just casted a wide net and I
Yeah.
tracked it in my Excel sheet. The next thing is my resume wasn't just my schoolwork.
Yeah.
In college, I was part of Steel Bridge.
Wow.
I was part of Concrete Canoe. I started a student club where I got 30.
What have you not done? What have you not done? Tell me what you didn't do, because you did everything.
I got $36,000 in funding.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
used it to do an energy challenge at the school. At the time, the school competition had less
Right.
money than our funded student club, right? And so at the time when I go into these interviews, right, the person wants to know that regardless of who I am coming across on the table, can you get the job done?
Yeah.
Right? That presence in the room is more important. That's what they're really looking for. And even when you you're climbing through your firm,
Yeah.
the difference between like a senior project manager and say an executive is not just the project management, it's also the executive presence, meaning that you walk into a room and you command the space without commanding the space. You look like you're in charge. You speak like you're in charge. You communicate like you're in charge.
And then people trust you, and they know, okay, he's someone that knows what he's talking about,
Right,
Yeah.
and that comes with time, right?
Yeah.
It takes time to develop that executive presence, that you're somebody that can be trusted.
Yeah.
You can be trusted to get the job done. I've always put myself in a position where I want my boss to be able to sleep knowing that I got the job done.
Awesome.
You don't need to, you give me it, it's going to get done. And so I go into interviews like that.
Okay.
Like when I went into the interviews, they're reading through the stuff on the resume, but I don't care what's on the resume.
Yeah. Because they already read that.
Yeah, they're right
Yeah.
there. It's like at the end of the day, you're going to get somebody that, regardless
Yeah.
of the task you give me, no task is too small, no task is too large for me to commit to it 100%. And once your interviewer realizes that that's who you are and that's a principal portion of you, you're going to get the job.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what you need to, demonstrate in the interview. Anyone can have accolades on paper, but can you execute, right?
Right.
So that's when I applied, every time I got an interview, that's the energy I went in, and I always got the interview, pass, right? So you wanted to know what was it that you did. I was like, I'm telling you, this is what I did. I just let them know that when you hire me, I'm going to get the job done, right? And so that's one.
You sold yourself. They knew already. Yeah.
But I'm selling it on experience though.
Right.
Like,
You're not just talking. It's backed up by actual work that you've
this
done.
is what I talk about,
Yeah.
doing the diligent steps. I did start the student club. I did get the 36.
So you know what you're talking about when you were doing the
I did
interviews.
have to manage being in school
Yeah.
while also starting a student club, also being a part of Steel Bridge, being a part of Concrete Canoe, still trying to finish it out school. At one point, and this is funny, my friends and I laugh about this at I went to school with. At one point, I would consider myself, when I was going through college, strategically homeless. What does that mean? In junior year, I recognized for me to commute home was an hour and a half commute home and an hour and a half commute back.
Yeah.
I had my internship. My internship starts at 7.
Wow.
If I'm doing class or doing homework until 10, 11 o'clock,
Yeah.
and then my commute turns to 2 hours going home, 2 hours back, that's 4 hours a day.
That's
4
a lot.
hours times
That's a
5
lot.
days a week, that's 20 hours
Wow.
commuting. This math is not mathing.
Yeah.
So I never went home.
Yeah.
I literally took all my clothes. I found a locker in the gym.
Yeah.
I put all my clothes in the locker in the gym. I went, I worked out, brushed my teeth, and then at that time, I couldn't go into the dorm because I wasn't staying at the
Yeah.
dorm, but they had like a couch beside a piano at the school, and it's a 24-hour building. Slept on the couch on the piano, by the piano, brushed my teeth, went to work, came back, do my classes, eat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Like, but that's what you need to do if you want to get it done. Because I'm like, listen, if I don't do this with all
Yeah.
the stuff that I have going
It's not gonna work.
it's going to fall flat on my face. My student club is going to do bad. I'm going to fail all my classes. I'm not going to be performing the way I need to perform for Steel Bridge or Concrete Canoe. So the velocity of your life changes at that point when you take on all these things. So by the time I got to my interview, you want me at your job.
Yeah.
You want me to work for you because I know I can get the job done. And I'm giving you that energy, but in a respectful way. It's not cocky. It's just, this is what I've done.
It's like reality. This is what I've actually done.
This is what I've actually done outside of school. So to get into project management, in short, you can get into it many ways. You can go and get a construction management degree, engineering degree. You can get into it for the finance side. You can do finance, and then you become a project controls, because there's different types of project managers, not just guys watching work in the field.
Sometimes they're watching the money that you're spending and what's going on with that. Yeah.
We have a guy, if you see him in our office, he has 5 screens. You think he's a trader? No, he's just watching all of the monies from all the different projects and controlling that and making sure what goes out to the client is accurate. We have to be accurate to the cent every month. If it's off, it'd be funny. We literally have to send back or correct or forecast or money that if it's off by a cent.
Even 1 cent? 1 penny, you have to.
Think about 1 penny across 7 years.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
1 penny across a $2.5 billion project. Each person's off a penny.
It's gonna add up.
You can't. And then who's gonna pay the delta?
Right.
So you have to be accurate to a penny.
So that doesn't happen. Everyone's paid. Everything's paid off.
Everyone's happy. Everyone's paid. No one can say they got shorted $700 at the end of the project.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No. Thank you so much, Ramon, for coming. Can you just mention your podcast? I know you do one as well, on what it's called and how people can go watch you and listen to you.
Absolutely. So the name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute.
Awesome.
The intent is to find individuals or highlight individuals that dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly. You can find us on all platforms, of course, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You name it, we're there. And so, just listen to the podcast whenever you get a chance when you're driving. Ultimately, the intent is to recognize that everything that you do in your life follows that process, right?
Awesome.
And learn from each side of your trajectory as a human being. So, for instance, when you were a kid, you dreamed frictionless. You never had any malintent to your dreams. You wanted to be an astronaut. You wanted to be a firefighter. It was just frictionless dreaming, and it made you.
And then as you grow up, those dreams start dying out.
But they start dying off because you get jaded by life.
Yeah.
Right? Life shows you something like you can't pursue everything. Right. There's a reality of time and resources. So what you learn as an adult is how to plan properly, but what you forgot is how to dream frictionless.
Yeah.
But what happens if your childlike wonder, your childlike being, like to dream frictionless meets your jaded planning self, right? And you plan thoroughly on your frictionless dream, and then you execute that relentlessly, what happens at that point? Your younger self and your adult self are working together, not fighting each other. A lot of people dream and they talk, but they don't plan, so you can't execute.
I like that.
Or if you plan, but you don't have a dream, you're just stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
If you're executing without any of the dreaming and planning, you're executing for someone else.
That's why you need all those
You
things
need
to get it done.
You
Yeah.
have to dream frictionless. You have to plan thoroughly. You have to make an effort to figure out what the strategy is. That's what a CEO does for a company.
Yeah.
You strategize. Someone is executing. The PMs are executing. He's strategizing,
Yeah.
right? But you must have a grandiose plan for yourself and divide it into small pieces that you can plan. And then you pick one of those small pieces and execute like an animal until it gets done. So
Awesome.
that's the reason for the podcast.
Thank you so much, Ramon. I definitely hope to do another podcast with you in the future. And thank
Absolutely.
you, everyone, for watching. Thank you.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah.